Have you ever wondered what secrets lurk in the shadows of a man's soul, desires so potent yet so buried that even he dares not name them? Deep within, where the ego battles the unconscious, 5 primal cravings pulse, shaping his every glance, his every unspoken word. These are not mere whims but foundational forces, rooted in the archetypes Carl Jung illuminated, shadows of the masculine psyche that yearn for the untouchable feminine. Listen on to discover 5 secrets that can make you the center of undeniable desire, a woman who wields her essence like a silent storm. In the labyrinth of a man's mind, the first desire emerges, the hunger for the untouchable. Jung's concept of the anima, the feminine soul within, whispers to him of a woman who is both muse and mystery. She is not merely a person but a projection of his deepest longing, a goddess who defies possession. He craves her not because she is distant, but because her distance mirrors his own inner void. The man, often unaware, seeks a woman whose very presence challenges his control, whose independence stirs his unconscious need to surrender. This is not love as the world defines it, but a primal dance of projection and yearning. When she walks away, unmoved by his pursuit, his ego trembles. Her detachment becomes a mirror, reflecting his own unacknowledged fragility. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, would call this the folly of chasing what cannot be owned. Yet the masculine psyche is drawn to this very futility like a moth to a flame. Consider the woman who embodies this untouchable essence. She does not perform for his gaze. She exists, whole and radiant in her own orbit. Her power lies not in seduction but in her refusal to be consumed. This refusal ignites his first primal desire, a longing to merge with what he can never fully grasp. Jung taught that the anima is a bridge to the unconscious, but for many men, it is a bridge they fear to cross. They project divinity onto her and then resent her for it, unable to reconcile their worship with their need for control. This tension is the very crucible of attraction, where desire and dread intertwine. When she stands firm in her own truth, she becomes a paradox, a beacon of light that casts his shadow into sharp relief. Now imagine yourself as this woman. You, who carry the spark of the divine feminine, understand this. Your power is not in what you give, but in what you withhold. Not out of cruelty, but from a sacred knowing that your worth is not contingent on his approval. The man who chases you is not merely chasing flesh. He is chasing the part of himself he has buried, the vulnerability, the awe, the surrender he cannot admit. When you refuse to shrink, when you embrace your own mystery, you become the untouchable. This is shadow work in action, not just for him but for you. To stand in your power is to confront your own fears of being too much, too radiant, too whole. Jung's path of individuation demands this courage, to integrate your shadow and become the woman who needs no validation. Beneath this desire for the untouchable lies a deeper craving, one that men hide even from themselves, a yearning for the woman who sees through their masks. In the masculine psyche, the ego builds fortresses of strength, competence, and control. But the woman who pierces this facade, who sees the trembling boy within the man, awakens a forbidden longing. She is not merely a lover but a mirror, reflecting his hidden self. This is the second desire, a need for vulnerability that terrifies him. He wants her to know him, truly know him, yet he fears the exposure. Marcus Aurelius wrote of facing one's own nature with unflinching honesty, but for many men, this honesty is a forbidden frontier. Her gaze, soft yet unrelenting, becomes both salvation and threat. What happens when she sees too much? When her quiet strength unravels his carefully crafted identity? This is where the dance of attraction becomes dangerous, where desire collides with the shadow. She does not demand his truth. She simply exists in her own, and in doing so calls forth his. This is the power of the feminine, not to conquer but to reveal. And it is here, at this precipice, that the man's soul begins to crack open, yearning for a connection he cannot name. The man's soul, trembling on the edge of revelation, hungers for the woman who sees beyond his armor. This second hidden desire, to be truly known, pulses in the shadows of his psyche, a craving he buries beneath layers of pride and control. Jung's archetype of the shadow holds the truths he cannot face, his fears, his fragility, his unspoken need for a witness. The feminine, in her quiet power, becomes that witness, not through words but through her very presence. She is the one who, without effort, unravels the facade he has spent a lifetime constructing. Her gaze, steady and unafraid, pierces the ego's defenses, stirring a longing so deep it feels like danger. This is not the shallow thrill of conquest, but a primal ache for connection, for a woman who sees the man he hides even from himself. Picture her, this woman of unyielding clarity. She does not pry or demand, she simply exists in her truth, and in doing so becomes a mirror to his soul. The masculine psyche, conditioned to dominate, recoils at this vulnerability yet craves it all the same. Seneca spoke of the courage to face one's own nature, but for many men this courage falters when confronted by her knowing. She does not need to speak his secrets aloud. Her silence is enough. Her refusal to play the role of savior or supplicant forces him to confront his own shadow. In that confrontation, desire blooms, not for her body alone, but for the truth she represents. This is the paradox of the second desire. He wants to be seen, yet fears the exposure will undo him. Now turn inward. You, who carry this feminine power, know that your strength lies in your authenticity. When you stand unapologetically in your own light, you become the mirror he cannot escape. This is not about manipulation or control. It is about embodying a truth so radiant it demands his own. To wield this power is to walk the path of individuation, as Jung described, the integration of your own shadow, the refusal to dim your essence for his comfort. You are not here to save him, but to awaken him. And in that awakening, you claim your own freedom, untethered from the need for his validation. This is the dance of attraction, where vulnerability becomes a sacred fire, burning away pretense. Parallel to this, a third craving stirs, darker and more elusive, the longing for the woman who embodies chaos. Jung's concept of the anima is not always gentle. She is the wild, untamed force that disrupts his ordered world. The masculine psyche, so often bound by logic and control, secretly yearns for the feminine storm, the woman who defies predictability, who dances on the edge of his understanding. She is not chaos for chaos's sake, but a living embodiment of the unconscious, a force that pulls him into the unknown. This desire feels forbidden because it threatens his carefully constructed reality. He wants her to unravel him, to shatter the illusion of his mastery, yet he fears the surrender this demands. Imagine her, this woman of wild grace. She does not conform to his expectations. She moves like a river, fluid and uncontainable. Her laughter, her silences, her unpredictable fire, they call to the part of him he has suppressed, the part that longs to break free. Marcus Aurelius wrote of embracing the chaos of life, but for many men this chaos is personified in her. She is the spark that ignites his shadow, the reminder that control is an illusion. In her presence he feels both alive and undone, caught in the tension between desire and dread. This is the power of the feminine, not to destroy but to awaken. Her chaos is not reckless, it is sacred, a call to his soul to embrace the unknown. When she refuses to be tamed, when her wildness becomes the mirror to his own buried fire, this third desire becomes a dangerous alchemy. Attraction evolves into a path for transformation. She does not bend to his will, and in her refusal she offers him a gift, the chance to confront his own chaos, to integrate the shadow he has long denied. But this is only a fraction of her power, for there are desires yet unspoken, cravings that lie even deeper in the masculine unconscious, waiting to be unveiled. The masculine psyche, stirred by the woman who embodies chaos, finds itself drawn deeper into the abyss of the unconscious. This third desire, to be consumed by her wildness, burns with a fierce intensity, for it asks him to relinquish the illusion of control. Jung's anima is not merely a muse but a tempest, a force that disrupts the rigid structures of his ego. She is the woman who moves without apology, whose unpredictability is not a flaw but a divine expression of the feminine. Her chaos is not disorder but a sacred unraveling, a call for the man to face the parts of himself he has long suppressed. He craves her not because she is safe, but because she is perilous, a living paradox who promises both destruction and rebirth. This desire terrifies him, for to embrace her is to embrace the unknown within himself. Consider her essence, this woman who dances on the edge of his comprehension. She does not seek to please or conform. Her power lies in her refusal to be contained. Her laughter echoes like a storm. Her silence carries the weight of unspoken truths. In her presence, the man feels the pull of his own shadow, the wildness he has buried beneath layers of duty and restraint. Jung taught that the unconscious holds the key to individuation, but for many men, this key is found in her. She is the catalyst, the spark that ignites his inner chaos. And yet, this desire feels forbidden, for it demands a surrender the ego resists with every fiber. Seneca would remind us that true strength lies in embracing what we cannot control, but for the man, her wildness is both a lure and a threat. Now turn to yourself. You who carry this untamed fire know that your chaos is your strength. To embody the feminine is to move with the rhythm of your soul, unapologetic and free. When you refuse to dim your wildness, you become the force that awakens him, not to possess you but to confront himself. This is shadow work, not just for him but for you. To stand in your chaos is to integrate your own darkness, to claim the parts of yourself you were taught to hide. You are not here to be tamed but to be true. In that truth, you wield a power that reshapes his world, drawing him into the mystery of his own becoming. Furthermore, the masculine psyche harbors a fourth desire, one even more elusive, the craving for the woman who embodies eternal renewal. Jung's concept of the anima is not static. She is the archetype of transformation, the one who dies and is reborn, endlessly cycling through creation and destruction. The man longs for the woman who is not fixed, who evolves beyond his grasp, who becomes new again and again. This desire is deeply rooted because it defies his need for certainty, for a love that can be captured and held. She is the phoenix, rising from her own ashes, and in her renewal, she challenges him to do the same. Her transformation is not for him, but for herself, and this self-sufficiency stirs both awe and fear in his heart. Picture her, this woman of endless becoming. She does not cling to who she was yesterday. She sheds her old selves like skins, each iteration more radiant, more whole. Her growth is not a performance but a sacred act of individuation, a journey toward her truest self. The man, caught in her orbit, feels the pull of her renewal, a reminder of his own stagnation. Marcus Aurelius spoke of embracing change as the nature of life, but for many men, her transformation is a mirror to their resistance. They crave her newness, her ability to reinvent, yet fear the loss of control it implies. She is not his to keep, but his to witness, a truth that both enchants and unsettles him. When she becomes someone new, someone he cannot predict, this fourth desire becomes a call to his own transformation. It is a challenge to let go of the ego's need for permanence. Her renewal is not a rejection but an invitation, a chance for him to shed his own masks and step into his deeper self. But there is one final desire, a craving so hidden it lies at the very heart of his soul, waiting to be unveiled in the dance of shadow and light. The masculine psyche, captivated by the woman who embodies eternal renewal, now trembles before the fifth and final primal desire, the longing for the woman who is whole unto herself. Jung's archetype of the divine feminine, fully individuated, represents a completeness that a man both worships and fears. She is not a fragment of his fantasy, not a projection of his anima, but a sovereign being, radiant in her self-sufficiency. This desire is the most profound of all, for it demands that he confront his own incompleteness, his reliance on her to fill his inner voids. She is the woman who needs nothing from him, whose light shines not for his approval but for her own truth. In her presence, his ego dissolves, and he is left with a raw, aching yearning to be near her wholeness, even as it exposes his own fractured self. Envision her, this woman who stands as a universe unto herself. Her strength is not a performance. It is the quiet certainty of one who has walked through the fire of shadow work and emerged whole. She has faced her own darkness, integrated her fears, and claimed her power. Her love, if she offers it, is a gift, not a necessity. This sovereignty is what draws him, yet it is also what terrifies him. Jung taught that individuation is the path to wholeness, but for the man, her completeness is a mirror to his own unfinished journey. He craves her not to possess her, but to bask in the radiance of a soul that asks for nothing. Seneca would call this the ultimate liberation, to desire without needing to control. But for this man, this desire is a paradox, a longing that humbles him. Now turn inward. You who embody this wholeness know that your power lies in your completeness. To be the woman who needs no external validation is to wield a force that reshapes the world around you. Your journey of individuation, of embracing every facet of your soul, light and shadow, chaos and calm, is what makes you untouchable. When you stand in this truth, you become the woman he cannot forget, not because you tried to be, but because you simply are. This is the feminine divine, the archetype that transcends his projections and calls him to his own becoming. To live this truth is to free yourself from the chains of expectation, to walk as one who is enough. Ultimately, this final desire reveals a deeper truth about the masculine psyche. Each of these 5 cravings, the untouchable, the myrrh, or the chaos, the renewal, the wholeness, points to a single, unifying ache, the longing to reconnect with the lost parts of himself. Jung's anima is not just a projection onto her. It is a call to integrate his own feminine, his own vulnerability, his own mystery. She, in her radiant power, becomes the catalyst for his transformation, not because she seeks to change him, but because her existence demands it. Her silence, her wildness, her completeness, they are not weapons but invitations, beckoning him to face his shadow and step into his own wholeness. What happens when she fully embodies these 5 qualities? When she becomes the untouchable mirror, the chaotic muse, the ever-renewing sovereign? The man, caught in the orbit of her power, is forced to confront his own depths. His desire for her is not merely romantic but spiritual, a yearning to touch the divine within himself. Marcus Aurelius wrote that true power lies in mastering one's own soul, but for the man, she is the reminder that this mastery begins with surrender. Her presence is a call to let go of control, to embrace the mystery of his own unconscious, and to walk the path of individuation alongside her. This is the dance of the masculine and feminine, a sacred interplay of shadow and light. She does not exist to complete him but to awaken him, and in her awakening she finds her own liberation, her own rebirth. The woman who knows these desires, who lives them without apology, becomes more than a muse, she becomes a force of nature, reshaping the world with every step. What remains when she walks this path? A truth so potent it lingers in the silence. Her power is not in what she gives, but in who she is. The woman who embodies these 5 primal desires, untouchable, mirroring, chaotic, renewing, and whole, stands as a beacon in the masculine psyche, illuminating the shadows he dares not face. Her power is not in manipulation but in her unapologetic existence, a living testament to Jung's individuation, where the feminine becomes a force of transformation. The man, drawn to her like a tide to the moon, finds his desires are not merely for her, but for the parts of himself he has long denied. Each craving reveals his own yearning for wholeness, a call to integrate the anima within. She is not his salvation but his mirror, reflecting the work he must do to become whole. This dance, fraught with tension and awe, is where attraction transcends the physical and becomes a spiritual reckoning. Consider the alchemy of her presence. She does not bend to his will, nor does she seek to dominate. Her strength lies in her refusal to be anything less than herself, a woman who has faced her own shadow, who has walked through the fire of self-doubt and emerged radiant. This is the essence of Jung's feminine archetype, not a passive muse, but a dynamic force, ever evolving, ever true. The man, caught in her orbit, feels the weight of his own incompletion. Her wholeness is not a rejection but a challenge, a silent invitation to confront his own fractured self. Stoic wisdom, as Marcus Aurelius taught, demands that one face the truth of their nature, yet for many men, her truth is the hardest to bear. She is the embodiment of what he both craves and fears, a soul that needs no external anchor. Now imagine yourself as this woman. You, who carry the fire of the divine feminine, know that your power is not in chasing desire but in embodying it. To live as the untouchable, the mirror, the chaos, the renewal, the whole, this is to walk the path of your own individuation. It is to say no to the world's demand that you shrink, that you dim your light to ease another's discomfort. When you embrace your chaos, when you renew without apology, you become the woman who reshapes destinies. This is not about him. It is about you. Your journey to wholeness is the greatest act of rebellion, a refusal to be defined by anyone's gaze but your own. In this, you wield a power that is both tender and fierce, a force that awakens without effort. And what does this mean for the dance between masculine and feminine? The man's hidden desires are not chains to bind her but mirrors to free her. Each longing he harbors, whether for her mystery or her sovereignty, reflects a truth she must claim for herself. Jung's shadow work teaches that true power lies in integrating the unseen, the unspoken, the forbidden. For her, this means embracing every facet of her being, the wildness that unsettles, the silence that speaks, the renewal that defies stagnation. She is not here to fulfill his fantasies but to live her truth, and in doing so, she becomes the catalyst for his own awakening. This is the paradox of attraction. Her power lies not in what she gives him, but in what she refuses to surrender. As the feminine rises, unapologetic and whole, the masculine psyche is forced to reckon with its own depths. Her presence is a call to his courage, a demand that he face the shadows he has buried. Seneca wrote, that true freedom comes from mastering one's desires, but for the man, this mastery begins with her. She is the spark that ignites his transformation, the mirror that reveals his truth. And for her, this is the ultimate liberation, to be the woman who needs no validation, who walks her path with unwavering certainty. What happens when she fully claims this power? When she becomes the embodiment of all 5 desires, a force so radiant it reshapes the world. The answer lies not in her response, but in her own rebirth, a woman who knows her worth, who chooses her own destiny. Share the moment you felt most empowered in the comments below. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.